Hey, welcome to my channel. Before we get started with the main subject of the video, I wanted to tell you a little bit about myself. I started out in high school as a teenager working on airless shot blast machines for an industrial company. I'd already as a teenager been working on cars and rebuilding car engines and that sort of thing, so the hand tools used in that were pretty familiar. Then that company moved, and I ended up going to work for a company repairing typewriters, of all things, and something that has now turned into a bit of a hobby. So worked on typewriters for a number of years. That transitioned into electronic business machines, and I took electronics, and so started using more electronic tools. And electronics has always been kind of a hobby with me, even since I was a kid, so that was pretty familiar territory too. That actually later on I got out of that business and started a camera repair business, repaired cameras for a number of years, and that turned into another hobby. I like finding and restoring old classic cameras and using them. So photography is another one of my hobbies. I actually have a YouTube channel for my photography as well. And then most recently was working for a company, still work for a company, that we install computerized life safety systems. And so I traveled around the country installing those systems and making those work. So tools have been a part of my working career as well as my hobbies. In terms of hobbies, I repair and build musical instruments. For instance, this is an old banjo neck that had delaminated, and the walnut center strip had, I think it had gotten wet. It had just pretty much rotted. And so I've glued a new piece of walnut in the middle. I've got to get it all cleaned up and dressed down to the original. I'm going to try to do that without disturbing the original finish. It's going to be a little tricky, but get that banjo going. I love working on old guitars and violins and ukuleles, and I played some of those instruments, so that's another hobby. Also, in terms of tools, I do some wood carving. That kind of sprang from the instrument making, and just as a hobby, I've kind of been an outdoors person most of my life. I was a Boy Scout leader for about 15 years. So spent a lot of time in the outdoors and still try to do that as much as I can. So, tools have just kind of been a part of my life, my entire life. And the one tool that I think everyone should have and use is a pocket knife. And I'm not necessarily talking about a big assisted opening or flip open pocket knife. I have some of those too. I have some Benchmade's and Spyderco's, and I love those knives. They're great knives. But I think probably everyone ought to have just a simple little pen knife or pocket knife in your pocket. And the reason I think that is, there's a lot of times when you're in an environment where flipping out a big folding knife that flips open with a loud snap, it's going to scare some people. But if you're wanting to open a letter, if you're wanting to cut some packaging or do something, a small pocket knife like this isn't going to freak anybody out. I grew up in a day and age where I carried a pocket knife like this to school every day. And I know you can't do that now, and kids, if you're watching, don't take your knives to school. That's just trouble with a capital T. But my teachers used to borrow my pocket knife. Everyone kind of knew that I had a pocket knife and knew how to sharpen it. It was sharp. And so having a small pocket knife in my pocket has been an everyday thing for me. So let's talk about this. I want to talk about this Case Peanut specifically. It's a great little pocket knife. It's small. If you wear dress clothes, it's not very large. It's not going to make a big lump in your pocket. And just a super handy thing to have with you all the time. So let's take a look at this. So this is the Case Peanut. It's a pretty small pocket knife. The knife has two blades. It's got a spear point blade and a pin blade. The spear point blade is supposed to be 2.1 inches. The pin blade 1.53 inches. The length closed is 2.88 inches. Looks like the overall length with it opened is around pretty close to 4.9 inches. Not to get really critical about it. I'm sure it varies a little bit from knife to knife. And the weight is supposed to be 1.1 ounces. So very lightweight. Again, made by Case. And one of the things I like, of course, is the Case knives are made in the United States. So that always is a nice thing. This is the style number, or the pattern stamp on this is the 6220 SS. So it's stainless steel blades. They're their True Sharp, Case's True Sharp stainless steel. They seem to hold an edge quite well. I've actually used both of these knives significantly. When I started traveling to install systems, I wanted a knife that I could throw in my suitcase, and then when I had it, when I was not flying, I could actually have it in my pocket and not freak people out, and I could open packages and boxes and things like that. And these served quite well. The reason I have two of them is I lost this one in, well, I didn't know where it was when I lost it, obviously. And then I bought another one, and a short time, I don't know, a year or so after having purchased this one showed up. My daughter-in-law found it down in their couch. So I got it back, and really happy to have it. You notice there's some difference in the two, though. The two knives aren't exactly the same. And if you look closely, you can see that the bolsters on this one are rounded and contoured more than this one. This one, the bolsters are quite squared off. And the blades seem to be very similar. The grind on the blades didn't really seem to be much different. Maybe a little better polish on this one. So it seems like Case maybe went through some quality control changes. You can see that this one's just a little bit slimmer than this one. This one's a little fatter. So whoever was shaping and polishing the handles and bolsters obviously spent a little less time on this one than this one. And you can see the logos are slightly different. There's a difference in the logo. So obviously they went through some design changes. And this one is the older one. The one that's open here is the older one. So I'm assuming that at least for a time, Case was putting a little less time on the knives. Now, performance-wise, they both held an edge just fine. They're easy to sharpen, and they performed admirably. It was just noticeable that this bottom one here is just shaped a little bit more carefully. So that's just something to note. I don't, like I say, functionally, didn't really make any real difference. Aesthetically, I like the effort putting into rounding the bolsters and the handles a little bit more on this one. So I was glad to have it back. Now I have two of them. I don't know what I'm going to do with the extra one, but there they are. So the Case Peanut is very small, fits in your pocket there when you need it. Like I say, I would when I would travel around, I would use it for opening boxes. When I'd get to my site where I was doing my install, I had all kinds of things to unbox, and then working through the installation, I would use this for any number of tasks, from cutting zip ties to stripping wire to doing other things. Now, those aren't the kind of tasks you normally do with a pocket knife. They're, a wire stripper is a better tool for stripping wire, and some side cutters are much better for cutting zip ties, but sometimes you end up with something you need to do, and while the better tool may not be available, a pocket knife is always at hand. So that's one of the reasons I think everybody should carry a pocket knife. And if you want to carry something bigger and fancier, like my everyday carry includes this Spyderco Delica 4, and I love this knife. It's a great knife with me all the time, but sometimes you need to be able to carry a knife that just doesn't worry people as much, that you can pull out and perform a task, and people don't freak out because you have something that in their mind is a weapon. Most people don't see something like this as a weapon. They see it as a tool, which is really what it is. Whereas a larger knife can often be viewed as a weapon. So anyway, the Case Peanut, these like I say, they hold an edge really well. What I do to maintain them, my stone that I usually sharpen these with is a Diafine Extra Fine. I think it's about a 1200 grit diamond stone. And on the back of it I have glued some leather, and I use Flex Cut Gold buffing compound or polishing compound. So just basically rub this on the leather and then use that to strop the blade, you know, as it's needed to maintain the edge. Now, normally if you're maintaining your edge, you're going to stone it occasionally and strop it more frequently, and that keeps the knife nice and sharp. I like my knives where they are just really sharp and ready to go all the time. The other thing, if you carry a pocket knife, make sure you're keeping the grooves, the lint, cleaned out of inside of them. They get full of pocket lint real easy. So picking that out, a little splinter of wood like a toothpick, or take a little piece of wood, just use your knife to carve a little splinter you can get down in there with. I've used a jeweler's screwdriver to dig all that out, and then of course a tiny drop of oil on the hinges of the blades will keep them opening and closing just like you need them to. So this is the Case Peanut. Great little knife from Case. I like I say, I use and carry these all the time, and if you're needing a small pocket knife to keep in your pocket, this is a great choice for that task. Well, hey, thanks for joining me for this little review of the Case Peanut. Like I say, it's a great little pocket knife. I've enjoyed using this one. If you're looking for a small traditional pocket knife to keep with you, I can highly recommend it. I was just looking at Case's website. Looks like these are like $51.99, $52 right now, suggested retail. Usually get a little bit cheaper when you buy either online or at an outdoor store, but I think it's really worth the money, and I really like spending, if I have to, a little extra to buy US. That always I think is a good idea. Got to support our US manufacturers. Anyway, Case Peanut. If you're looking for a small pocket knife, I really recommend it. Well, like I said, thanks for joining me. I would appreciate it if you click the like and subscribe buttons and the notification bell. That way you can catch the next video. And this is the first one. This channel I actually created quite a while back, and really haven't done anything with it. I've been really focusing more on my photography channel. I'll put a link to that down below too if you want to see that. But I hope you'll join me for the next one. I'm going to start doing more tool reviews and talking about how to use tools, some how-to videos, and I think all that will be a lot of fun. So hope you'll join me for the next one, and I look forward to seeing you on the next episode of The Tool Junkie. And thanks for watching. Oh, before I go though, you got to meet Riley. Come here, Riley. Come on. Come on up here. Yes. Riley's our new Jack Russell. Say hi, Riley. He's a mess. He's been patiently sitting here while I film all this, and has only made a little bit of noise. So he's a good dog. Yes. Say hi, Riley. Bye, Riley. Well, thanks for joining me.